We're halfway through the week. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, waking you up each and every weekday morning at 8 o'clock. Hopefully you're up a little bit before that, but we get you started here on YouTube with The Center Square. Now be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to get updates, not just of the show when it goes live or segments or shorts, but also when we put up news clips, things happening at the State House and beyond. Again, you can find it all at The Center Square on YouTube. Don't forget, you can also get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com, click on the newsletter, and subscribe. It is free. We are a free newswire service covering what happens at state houses across the country and over in Washington, D.C., looking at things from a taxpayer's perspective. So be sure to get those headlines in your inbox by subscribing to the newsletter. And if you can't wake up with us live, don't forget, you can check out the podcast. Just search Illinois in Focus and you'll find that. All right, we got several things to tackle from the Illinois State House yesterday. A couple of Senate committee hearings on gambling and hemp-infused beverages. So we'll tackle that. We also got to hear about the spat that happened on the House floor yesterday, where a Republican was cut off in the middle of a point of personal privilege just moments after a Democrat was left uninterrupted, allowed to scream on the House floor that the Trump administration is racist and an embarrassment. So we'll get to that as well. But up next, the back and forth from Democrats and Republicans on the Trump administration's process of closing down the U.S. Department of Education, getting both sides out there for you here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, Associate Editor for The Center Square here in Illinois. Heading to the Capitol a little bit later on because, well, the House is still in session, but got a little bit of a note of, I guess some are happy about it. The House canceled Thursday and Friday, so they won't be in session Thursday and Friday. So I anticipate they'll probably have some morning committee hearings, and then they'll gavel in, gavel out, and head on home for the long weekend. So we'll tackle that, of course, here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to get the subscriptions in and like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with The Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily.
The results speak for themselves. The very people that we need to lift up are in the absolute worst schools. You can come at me with this equity, DEI baloney. If the second you aren't trapping poor kids in failing schools, come at me with the DEI stuff, all right? Until then, I don't want to hear it.
Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. State Representative Blaine Wilhauer there talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion when it comes to public schools and the impact to Illinois education dollars from the federal government if indeed President Donald Trump's order to close the Department of Education is left to stand and be implemented. Welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here as we break things down for you and how they impact you, the taxpayer. So if you go to thecentersquare.com, you'll be able to see the headline here. Illinois' $3 billion education funds could be jeopardized by the state's diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. So what we have is that executive order from President Donald Trump, and we reviewed this last week. But I think it's important that we go through it again here, as the headline is improving education outcomes by empowering parents. Some states and communities talks about how they want to make sure that they shore up efficiencies within the Department of Education, go on and start closing that. Ultimately, they said the money is going to be kept whole for special education and a variety of other funding elements that states get, Pell Grants for individuals and such. But one thing here that I think is important that we highlight. Consistent with the Department of Education's authorities, the Secretary of Education shall ensure that the allocation of any federal Department of Education funds is subject to rigorous compliance with federal law and administrative policy, including the requirements that any program or activity receiving federal assistance terminate illegal discrimination obscured under the label diversity, equity, and inclusion or similar terms and programs promoting gender ideology. So again, the Trump administration and President Donald Trump with his order says that diversity, equity, and inclusion obscure illegal discrimination, meaning kind of covers it up. And we'll hear some reaction to all of this now. So let's go to the State House, where yesterday I was able to get in front of Democratic State Representative Will Davis, who chairs a House Education Committee, asking him, how's this going to impact the state of Illinois? Even though Trump says the dollars for special education, which even Governor J.B. Pritzker has complained could be jeopardized under Trump's order, all those dollars are still going to be going out, except for this issue in the clause about if you're running DEI programs and gender ideology, then you might not get any of those federal funds. How's that going to impact Illinois? Here's Will Davis.
Well, one thing that we love about the state of Illinois is that we recognize the diversity that exists in the state at all levels and in every space in the state of Illinois. And the fact that the federal government hates diversity and are trying to bully states like Illinois to say if you're going to do diversity, then you jeopardize funding. To me, that's, in my opinion, and I'm no lawyer, it's unconstitutional to say that. The concern about even keeping certain programs intact, if there's no DOE that has the history and the capacity to administer, and you push it off to an agency that has never done it before, then can we expect problems? Can we expect a lot of hiccups in the administration of it? And those hiccups translate into services not reaching young people, particularly deserving young people here in the state of Illinois. It is our hope and our desire that somebody with some sense in D.C. will say, no, let's not do that. Let's keep these things together. And I know that funding-wise, about 10% of a school district's funding comes from the state, from the federal government, but those are important programs, particularly when we talk about title programs, those programs that serve underserved individuals. Clearly, the federal government has disdain for people who may otherwise not have the same level of resources that other folks have, and we don't understand why. I think government's role is to help protect, particularly the least of them. And that's what programs like that do. So we're going to obviously fight to do the best we can to make sure that our children continue to be served, regardless of who they are and where they are in the state of Illinois. And we'll continue to work hard to do that.
Again, State Representative Will Davis there. Sorry, I had to unmute my mic. He's talking about how he thinks that DEI is important and it's just fostering diversity. And he alleges that
when you think about programs
the Trump
like that,
administration doesn't appreciate diversity. But the Trump administration's made the argument that focusing on the external characteristics of somebody is in itself prejudice and discriminatory. Because if you're just focusing on the color of somebody's skin, or the identity they self-identify as, you're not looking at the outcome of their actions and the merit that's involved when making decisions of whether somebody's going to get a raise or whether somebody's going to get promoted or something to that effect. So diversity, equity, and inclusion under fire, obviously, and the Trump administration trying to get rid of that. I talked with State Representative Blaine Wilhauer yesterday as well to get his reaction on how he believes Illinois is going to be impacted by Trump's order to close the Department of Education.
Well, yeah, they'll certainly be impacted. Illinois needs to make a choice. J.B. Pritzker needs to make his choice. Are we wanting to educate kids in this state, or are we wanting to indoctrinate kids in this state? Because that's all this DEI stuff is, all right? It's a race to the bottom. It's, that's 100% what it is. Our students are failing in this state. Only 3 out of every 10 kids are reading at grade level. We've got 30 schools in the state of Illinois where 0 people are proficient in reading and math. It's time for Illinois government to make a choice. Do we want all this DEI woke nonsense that's destroying education, or do we want our kids to actually learn? The Department of Education has been around since Jimmy Carter. All right, we spent $1 trillion on the Department of Education, and our grades have got worse. Our results have got worse. Our students have gotten progressively worse since we've done this. So, anytime that we can eliminate the bureaucracy, our enrollment's going down, but the bureaucracy has taken off. Non-teaching positions have absolutely taken off in the country and in Illinois. Anytime we can return those dollars closer to home, I would like to get rid of the Illinois State Board of Education and certainly limit their control. They're not doing a very good job either. You know what I think? I want to give that money to parents. Parents are the best source of local control in education. They know what's best for their kids.
And that could be a move across the country with Trump's order, because when you're looking at like a state for Illinois, for example, you've got over $3 billion that's expected to come from federal taxpayers to the state of Illinois. About 10% of the funds that Illinois spends on public education comes from federal taxpayers. So we get that money. We then have, multiple layers of bureaucracy as well. And, the State Board of Education takes the money and then delivers it to all these different programs across the state. But what if that money instead went to the parents to make a choice, right? I mean, they're already paying property taxes. And even if they send their kids to a private school, they still got to pay the property taxes to send their kids to public school, or at least send those tax dollars to public school. But would allowing for the money to follow the child through the parents' decision on how they spend that on their education, is that a better approach? Representative Wilhour believes it is. But back to Representative Davis, when I asked him about the DEI issue, and in particular Trump saying that it's illegal discrimination and that's why it must end, Will Davis saw it differently.
When you think about programs like that, you have to understand that not everybody's on the same playing field. Programs like this are to help bring the bottom up so that they have the same opportunity to live a quality life as everybody else. If nobody understands that, Trump should understand that. Apparently, he's lived a charmed life. He's never had to worry or to struggle like some people have. And the fact that he can't understand that and be sensitive enough to acknowledge that we have to do more for those who don't have, then, that says a lot about him being supposedly the leader of the United States.
So Davis says that DEI is actually about, lifting people up who traditionally or historically haven't had those supports. And we've heard a lot about DEI, especially in the education space. Between the two I'm talking with right now, State Representative Will Davis and State Representative Blaine Wilhour in the House Education Committee. They've debated excellence versus equity. I asked State Representative Blaine Wilhour to react to Will Davis, saying that DEI is really about making sure that those of lesser means can rise above. Here's what Wilhour said.
The results speak for themselves. The very people that we need to lift up are in the absolute worst schools. You can come at me with this equity, DEI, baloney. If the second you aren't trapping poor kids in failing schools, come at me with the DEI stuff, all right? Until then, I don't want to hear it.
So again, Representative Wilhour not wanting to have that conversation because he says it's on a faulty premise because we've had DEI in place for some time and really hasn't helped the outcomes of children performing better in public schools, and especially in certain areas, like, for instance, areas of lesser means, and there's a lot of money going into those areas. So this conversation is definitely going to continue, and how the Trump administration continues to impact a state like Illinois that seems to be defiant against the president's orders to end things like DEI and gender ideology. We'll be tracking this story for you. So that's why you got to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with us each and every weekday morning as we wake you up with a little bit of news jockeying. It is the Center Square, Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Get the headlines at thecentersquare.com.
continue to see debate on matters that we have no impact on, while we have unemployed Illinoisans wanting us to do something to make their life better. We need to get to work. The fact that I was cut off is beyond the pale.
That is State Representative Jeff Kiker, Republican from Sycamore, after he was cut off in the middle of a point of personal privilege following a Democrat who went uninterrupted complaining about the Trump administration, calling it racist and an embarrassment to the country. It's Illinois
Today
in Focus
I
Daily.
rise to bring attention.
All right. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every morning as we go live to tape here. All right, live to tape. Podcast is live, but of course, some of you come back and check out the segments after the fact, which is A-okay by me, just as long as you're staying informed. Another way to stay informed, get that newsletter. Go to thecentersquare.com and subscribe today. So yesterday on the House floor, there was, points of personal privilege. Hey, we've got this over here. This is my page of the day. I've got this family from my district. This school's being recognized. Points of personal privilege about women's history. Points of personal privilege about birthdays, all this stuff. State representative from the Chicagoland area, he got up to do something that's been done for the past few weeks on the House floor, and that is to have Democrats complain about the Trump administration and complain about Elon Musk and say that the Republicans in Congress are going to cut Medicaid and they're going to harm kids with disabilities and they're going to slash Social Security, alleging all of these things that the Trump administration has pushed back on and said they're not going to do. Well, State Representative Han Wen from Chicago, he got up to address what he said was the latest concern that Illinois Democrats have. And what's interesting is Illinois Democrats, they're in power in Illinois. They've got, both chambers, super majorities in both chambers. They've got every statewide constitutional office holder from governor all the way down to treasurer and attorney general and everything between. Plus, the Democratic Party has gotten their candidates into the Illinois Supreme Court. So clearly Republicans in Illinois are in the super minority. But when it comes to the national political scene, Democrats are in the minority. They don't control Congress, either the House or the Senate, and they don't control the White House. That is controlled by the Republican Party. And you've got a majority of Supreme Court justices that are appointed by Republicans. So interesting to see kind of the macrocosm and the microcosm. So Han Wen, he gets up as a Democrat who is in the supermajority in Illinois complaining about the majority party Republicans and in particular President Donald Trump. This is what he had to say.
Today I rise to bring attention to the latest disturbing news to come out the Trump Department of Defense assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Efforts across our 6 branches of the military. As the son of a Vietnam War veteran, Trump's executive order to remove the history of our nation's heroes angers me greatly. Last week, Trump, Elon Musk, and Pete Hegseth tried to erase African American history, Native American history, and Asian American history. History that honors some of the most decorated heroes of America's past, to comply with Trump's stupid and racist attacks on our values disguised as a war on wokeness.
Now, Wen went on from there to talk about the variety of different ethnic minority groups that served in the military in past conflicts and the recognition he says they used to get, but he claims that Trump's wanting to dismantle all of that.
These attempts to raise the public knowledge of these heroes' legacy are dumb, racist, and patently un-American. Un-American. What's also un-American is 80,000 job cuts at the Department of Veteran Affairs. Classified information shared on Signal Chat this last weekend. This Trump administration is an embarrassment to our country. An embarrassment to our country. Trump is an embarrassment to our country. To Trump, Elon Musk, Pete Hegseth, we will continue to fight to preserve our democracy. In the motto of the 442nd, we will risk everything to fight and win for the American people. We will go for broke.
So Wen went on from there, saying that they're gonna continue to fight the Trump administration, and I imagine we'll hear more from Democrats in the future, taking to the Illinois House floor and complaining about the Republicans out of Washington, D.C. But again, Democrats control the state of Illinois, and they've controlled the General Assembly for decades. It's been a mix of Republicans and Democrats controlling the executive office of governor. But again, look at the current makeup of the map. It's drawn by Democrats. Democrats have every constitutional office and so on. State Representative Jeff Kiker, after several other speakers got up, the representative wanted to address what he felt was a lack of decorum on the House floor when Wen went off and started yelling that the Trump administration is racist and un-American.
But the volume and the feigned anger that we heard that disrupted decorum today is unlike much that we have seen in years. I completely understand. As a minority party in the state of Illinois, where the executive branch is controlled by the other party, both chambers are controlled by the other party, the Supreme Court is controlled by the other party, I get your frustration. I empathize with your frustration, but what we saw today is unfair to the people of the state of Illinois who are frustrated at the indifference to making their lives better. Had Illinois grown at the average rate of the 6 states around us from 2010 to 2020, we would have an additional 722,000 people working in 451,000 additional jobs. But the consequences haven't allowed that to happen. The irony of control is available for all to see. We hear policies discussed and yelled about on clean energy. Well, this is clean here, not elsewhere. The mining that takes place to get EV.
Thank you, Leader Kiker. We gotta move on.
So again, Kiker was interrupted, and his microphone was cut off, and he was told that they had to move on. When Representative Wen was speaking, he went uninterrupted for a good 3+ minutes. Uninterrupted. Kiker there could have gotten somebody else, another Republican, and you saw their Representative Tipsword trying to say, hey, he can have my time, which happens all the time. If they go on a short debate and you're only allowed for 2 or 3 minutes and you're not done making your points, then a fellow member of your party could say, I give my time to so-and-so. That wasn't even allowed to happen. And Kiker was effectively cut off. So later on, after some more points of personal privilege, Kiker was allowed to get back up, I'm sure after some protestation from Republicans. And the acting speaker at that time, Representative Edgar Gonzalez, allowed for Kiker to finish making his points. And Kiker said the point was made by the Republican being cut off.
Leader Kiker is recognized for 1 minute to finish his point.
Mr. Speaker, I think you offered everyone in the room a perfect opportunity to show and demonstrate through action the frustration that I was giving voice to. This chamber is bigger than any of us. The work that the people expect this House to do is more important than any of us. We continue to see debate on matters that we have no impact on, while we have unemployed Illinoisans wanting us to do something to make their life better. We need to get to work. The fact that I was cut off is beyond the pale.
Interesting to see the debates, and we'll bring it to you every time it happens here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning, breaking things down for you to know how to, navigate state government. All right, so get to the website, thecentersquare.com, see that story and others. And here on the YouTube channel, you can find more clips of all kinds of stuff. So go check it out, all right? I'm Greg Bishop. Good morning. It is Illinois in Focus Daily.
If my casinos are spending multi-millions of dollars to have a sports wagering tax, with all fairness.
Let's do that again. All right. In 5, 4, 3. This is live to tape, folks. All right. And I'm doing some live cutting and mixing and all that stuff. So let's just start that all over again. How about we? All right. Sounds good. I mean, why not? It is my show after all.
If my casinos are spending multi-millions of dollars to have a sports wagering tax, with all fairness to all of you, once we open that door, people are going to take advantage of it. So whether the tax that the gaming board has proposed is the right one, not sure, but it's something to say, I don't want to be taxed, I don't want to pay fees. You want the privilege to do business in Illinois, guess what? You're going to pay for that privilege. But I'm just going to leave it there.
That is State Senator Christina Castro yesterday during a Senate committee on gaming, where the conversation was a range of things to limit how much people can bet on sports, and even to start taxing and regulating fantasy sports. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Not the only thing a Senate committee tackled. The Liquor Committee also tackled different issues about liquor distribution, but they're also looking to regulate hemp-infused products like hemp drinks that could be intoxicating. All right, so let's get into it. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. You want these headlines and more, go to thecentersquare.com and wake up with that newsletter each and every weekday morning in your inbox. It's free. Plus, you can watch this program live each and every weekday morning or catch the segments on YouTube. Just like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. So the Senate's been off this week, but they have been holding committee hearings. They've got some more committee hearings later on throughout the week, and they've been virtual hearings. So looking at a bunch of people hopping in on Zoom and discussing things. They had a Senate gambling and wagering and sports betting committee that tackled a host of legislation and not moving it, but just having conversations about it. One measure would say that sports books, they have to limit how much people can bet per day. Only 5 bets a day. Then there's things that they are looking at doing of limiting like $1,000 or something like that for a certain period of time, $10,000 for a month or something to that effect, but also having the sports books make sure that whoever's betting a lot of money is financially secure and able to do that. State Senator Bill Cunningham said that there's a lot of things at play here, and they worry that, especially when gambling is expanded, the impacts on society.
We're anxious to get input from other stakeholder groups within this space, and we are open to making modifications to the bill. But I think it's time that this form of beverage be entered into.
Well, that is actually Bill Cunningham talking about the cannabis stuff. Let me see if I can come over here and talk about the wagering stuff. Again, live to tape, folks.
Senate Bill 2399 seeks to reach a similar goal by putting limitations on the number of bets and the amount that can be wagered, puts other safeguards in place that exist in other states that have online sports wagering, like prohibition of using credit cards. Again, all designed to put brakes in place and safeguards in place to prevent problem gambling. We've seen a number of studies that have been done. Academia has taken a look at this, has examined states that have online sports wagering and other forms of online wagering in place. And they have cited increases in bankruptcy filings in a number of the states, even some evidence of increased reports of domestic violence. Now, causation correlation debate is going on, and it's still kind of early in this process, so I don't think we can leap to any conclusions yet. But we definitely have to be cognizant of this as policymakers and regulators. I will say that a number of operators in the sports wagering space have recognized.
So, some recognition of the ills and ails of gambling. We expanded gambling quite a bit in Illinois when it comes to video gaming terminals. And here in Springfield, you go down the street, and it's like every other block, there's 2 or 3 gambling parlors. Interesting, though, up in Chicago, there's not, because Chicago never opted in to allow for video gambling. And they're struggling right now with sweepstakes machines. And this committee did have some conversation about the sweepstakes issues, especially because it's been part of different types of corruption cases where people have actually been found guilty of trying to bribe other lawmakers to allow for sweepstakes machines to be more legitimized. So how the sports wagering space could be impacted by putting caps on how much can be bet on, and even taxing sports wagering even more with a progressive tax. That's been floated as well, and I think it's even part of the governor's proposed budget. So when it comes to these types of things, you may not see the actual implementation of it until we get to the budget late May, and then they'll bring out the budget implementation bill. So they're just having these initial conversations about these ideas. But you have Tim Jensen of Real Time Fantasy Sports. He's not a fan of the taxes that are being proposed that fantasy sports operators would have to pay if they want to have an operation in Illinois. I don't really watch sports at all. I mean, I kind of like UFC, but it's not like I seek it out. If a game's or if a bout is on, I might watch it, but it's not like I set aside time to do anything like that. I don't sports bet, so I couldn't really tell you much about that. Definitely don't do the fantasy sports stuff. So I don't know. To each their own, right? But I know a lot of people who love it, and they get into it, and they play fantasy sports. But Tim Jensen of Real Time Fantasy Sports testifying to this committee yesterday, saying that they would be out of business if they had to pay the taxes that are being proposed.
We are opposed to SB 2145 and its proposed $500,000 licensing fee. As a season-long operator, we collect fees once at the fantasy draft at the beginning of the season and distribute prizes once at the end of the season after the league championship game. As a smaller operator, we have hundreds of loyal Illinois players that have been with us for years, if not decades. However, the $500,000 licensing fee exceeds our total gross revenue for the state of Illinois and would effectively lock us out of the state.
Shut them down. No question. It's a lot of money. We're talking about fantasy sports. We're not talking about professional sports here, even though it's based off of professional sports. Bart Clellan with Net Choice, also there to testify about this measure virtually in a Senate committee hearing.
Sports industry already earns merely a fraction of what the wealthy sportsbook industry does. Some of those behemoths we heard about from the Madam Chair earlier. So this level of taxation most certainly will suppress the ability of fantasy sports to compete in a robust entertainment marketplace, and may even permanently harm the ability of companies to deliver the exact products that Illinois consumers already love. The overbearing tax structure designed for the sports books fails to recognize the smaller margins and revenue limitations on fantasy sports. And stunning to me, fantasy platforms earn about 1/30th of the revenue of sports books. So this kind of tax structure, amazing perhaps for these big behemoths, not so much for middle and small size and innovative companies. So unfortunately, in addition, the SB 2145 bans popular single-player fantasy sports contest runs counter to where most of the country is going and starting to allow these contests because of consumer demand.
So clearly a lot being said about fantasy sports, but State Senator Christina Castro said, if you guys want to operate in Illinois, you got to pay to play.
If my casinos are spending multi-millions of dollars to have a sports wagering tax, with all fairness to all of you, once we open that door, people are going to take advantage of it. So whether the tax that the gaming board has proposed is the right one, not sure, but it's something to say, I don't want to be taxed. I don't want to pay fees. You want the privilege to do business in Illinois. Guess what? You're going to pay for that privilege. But I'm just going to leave it there.
Guess it's something that we see often in government and in private enterprise, and government wanting to make sure that they can get funds to fund whatever operations they have as priorities, so they will then level fines, penalties, and taxes on the private enterprise. So that was just one of several gambling bills that they discussed in the Senate Gambling Committee. Then later on in the day, they had the Senate Liquor Committee meet virtually, and they discussed a whole host of things, from making sure that those who are craft distillers can get their products direct to customers instead of having to go through a retailer or having to go through a certain type of regulatory framework. So they had a long conversation about that. They had other conversations about distributing craft brew and so on. But one thing that really took a lot of attention was the idea of regulating hemp-infused intoxicating beverages. All right, so Illinois legalized medicinal marijuana. Gosh, what was that, a decade plus ago? And then in 2019, they legalized recreational marijuana. And then you had the U.S. Farm Bill, I believe this was 2018, essentially allow for industrial hemp to be produced. And that opened up the gates to allow for people to grow hemp and find different types of products. You can make textiles and fabrics and oils and all kinds of stuff. Feed for livestock, but you can also make smokable hemp, and people are even deriving things like Delta 8 and Delta 9, I think, is that what it is? But there's also concerns about how these hemp products are getting into convenience stores and being labeled like candy, and some kids getting their hands on it. And some of these hemp products, while it might be low THC, it still has some intoxicating qualities to it. So they're wanting to try to regulate this, especially as more and more you have a focus on different types of hemp products like hemp-infused beverages. State Senator Bill Cunningham saying that this is an issue that needs to be addressed as the popularity of these products grows and grows.
We're anxious to get input from other stakeholder groups within this space, and we are open to making modifications to the bill. But I think it's time that this form of beverage be entered into the regulatory space, and we think this is a good way to do it.
So he wants to have some regulation. Now, they tried bringing this up last year, but there was a lot of consternation, good word for you, a lot of conflict in the House. And there were even stories that when the governor, who supports this type of legislation, tried to send his staff to go talk to a House Democratic caucus, it would turn into a yelling match. And a lot of the black caucus opposing these regulations on hemp, because the hemp industry is saying, hey, we can't get into the legal marijuana business because it's so expensive. The regulations are over the top. It's really only allowed for the big conglomerates to be able to come in and buy out smaller operations. So the hemp industry is something that minority communities are able to get into and to thrive. And if they have more regulations, it's going to make it that much more difficult. So Justin Ward of the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association, also a farmer, he discussed how these types of regulations on the hemp industry are really going to hurt and possibly impact the economy in a negative way.
We strongly oppose the proposed three-tier system included in the bill, which would prevent hemp producers from selling directly to consumers. This system mirrors that of alcohol and would force small hemp businesses to rely on distributors, effectively limiting their market access. For small businesses like those in our association, this would be a major obstacle. The ability to engage directly with consumers has been a critical part of our growth and success.
So obviously, some of the regulations that are being proposed here, limiting or having them go through the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Ag, and elsewhere, testing products and having a variety of different types of hoops they got to jump through. Clearly, when it comes to growing hemp, they have to have checks. And one of the commenters does point out that you have to have a license to grow hemp in the state. True, and they do come out and they test the hemp products. They test the hemp products for certain levels of THC, and if there's just a notch above that certain level allowed, then you got to destroy all the hemp. But still, you have hemp thriving in Illinois when it comes to the production of it. But more regulations would do more impact. So all of this obviously is an ongoing conversation, something that we'll likely hear a lot more about as we get closer to the tail end of session, and we'll keep you posted here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, get the headlines at thecentersquare.com with the newsletter, and get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus and you'll find it. Greatly appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning, just to kind of check out some of the chat happenings. Good morning to John, Dave DeHunter, to Nebris, David. Is that Ickenbaugh? James Bond Jr., Christopher, Doobie Lou, Morris, Jack, Captain Mike, Patrick, Matthew, John, Brian, Bob, Andrew, John, Nakuda. Who else we got up in here? Whole host of people. Randall. Oh, and Save the Humans. Am I a ginger? I don't know. I like to say I've got strawberry blonde hair, but I also burn in the sun and I freckle, so I guess Save the Humans always making ginger jokes. Yeah, see, like right there. That's right, Greg. You are the head ginger in charge. Well, at least of this show, right? No, really do appreciate you guys being here and interacting with each other as well each and every weekday morning. Good morning, Steve. You guys are definitely busy in there. Tom, you have a great day too. All right. I got to get out of here, head to the Capitol. Again, they're off Thursday and Friday. So it makes things a little bit easier heading into the rest of the week. But hopefully you have a wonderful Wednesday. And we'll see you back here tomorrow with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us to get the latest.